nice fade down. Did you hear my abrupt fade down last week? Were you here for that? And
I
I was, like,
was 2
laughing,
weeks
calling your
ago,
name. Yeah, 2 weeks
right?
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
on. Remember, I wasn't feeling good enough to be
I
on with
know,
you,
I'm
but I was
sorry.
listening. That was
Yeah.
such a good episode. Thank you
Thank you
for
so
taking care of that.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, and thank you for taking care of yourself. It's important, so,
Woo!
I got you.
Yeah. That was a challenge. I was in Texas, loading up family home, and,
Mhm.
my mom really hadn't been there in 2 years, so
I
a
was
lot
gonna
of
ask you.
dust, a lot of stuff, a lotta, so it kicked up emotional, physical, all kinds of stuff got kicked up, and plus I was home, so I
Mhm.
don't know about y'all, but when I go home to where I grew up, my allergies always go, "Whoa,
Really?
hello."
Hmm.
And I was gonna push through, and I thought, "Why am I pushing through? Like, my
Right.
voice does not sound good. I do not feel good. Why am I do" We're a podcast about wellness, and I knew you
Yes.
could handle it. So,
Mhm.
it was a great episode. I was listening, I was commenting 'cause
Yeah,
I
you are.
I miss it when I'm not
Mhm.
on, but,
No, I get it.
yeah, great job.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
and, today we're talking about boundaries are not barriers, and that's what I thought about, like, that's what you need. It's not a hard situation to come up against. We don't have to make it difficult. What does this person need? We could make win-win situations, of course.
Oh, I've been working on this my whole life, Shannon.
Me
Like,
too. I don't think it
I
stops.
was, I was I was raised in Texas by a ex-military football coach,
Mhm.
and they were public school teachers also. So, like, you really had to be almost dead or bleeding to not show up, like, to not go to school or not
I
go to
get it.
work or,
Yeah.
like, it was so ingrained in me. I mean, I've worked on it for years because I
Mhm.
used to have to get really sick to take a break, and I
Yeah.
cleared all that up. Like, that was the
Mhm.
first round of, "Hey, this is not healthy. Let's
Thank
clear
you.
this up." But it's so interesting to me when you go home or you go back to those places where that stuff was you were indoctrinated in it,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah,
how
yeah.
easily it rises up. Because I
Mm.
knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I needed to take the week off. My body was like, "Ah," but I struggled, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, and I was like, "Why is this so hard?" And I think it was because of where I was at, honestly.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah,
That
it
makes
was a good
sense.
thing to notice.
Mhm.
So and then we had last week off. How was your week off? How are you?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was good. Week off from this, still a week on from other things, you know what I
Right?
mean? But finally feel like I have a rhythm and a pace set up in New Jersey, which is great.
Mm, nice.
Yeah. I knew how big of a thing it was for me, but the move has shown me you don't do anything without systems. Like little Shannon that was taking everything off her dresser and reorganizing it, that's you, baby, okay? Like, that's what you gotta
You
do. Yeah,
got
yeah.
a system,
I
like
got you. And it's funny because you talk about going back home. I'm like, wow, back home. I've moved so many times. I don't go back to those houses. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know
Right.
what that's like. So I'm used to moving and setting up a whole nother system quick. We moved
Yeah.
close to 30 times. You know what I mean? So the system is what keeps it sustainable in and out of all these different places and families and homes and marriages and whatever we're doing today with the family that we're talking to. So, yeah, it's been a good thing, but I'm super glad that you got to do that. And it's super important to
Yeah.
take care of the family house, so I hear you.
Yeah, it feels like a closure for the last
Yeah,
couple of years, right?
I get
Um,
it.
and I got to drive a big truck. I love
I
it. For people who know me, I love driving big trucks. So,
love
I
trucks
drove
too.
a 27-foot U-Haul from
Okay.
Texas to Colorado.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was fun.
I was
It
gonna
was
ask
a
you
good
how it was
time.
for you.
Oh, I loved it.
Did
I
y'all
had a great
stop and, like, eat and do the things with
Yeah,
nature and
we
sightsee and
stopped,
everything?
we didn't do a lot of sightseeing, but one of my aunts had recently moved back from Utah to Lubbock, Texas, which you'll laugh when I say this. It was a small Texas detour. It was only about an hour and a half out of our way.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Country girl
but,
here, I got your math,
it was
yeah.
on the way.
Yeah,
When you're talking about a 12-hour trip, it's not
absolutely.
small, but we stopped by and saw them, and it was the first time I'd seen them since my grandmother passed, and
Mm.
so that was lovely, and then we stopped in Amarillo and, at a
Mm.
hotel that we usually stop at,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was a good trip. It was not an easy trip, but it was a good trip, and the weather was awesome, and I got to spend time with my mom and listen to an audiobook, and yeah, it was good.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know how difficult it is. I know how difficult it is. So I'm glad you got to be there and that you got to do it. Closure is so important, especially when we're talking about like, where are we? What are we doing? What do we need? Like having that open in your mind for years is never easy.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So should we do our official intro and kick this show off?
Yeah. Let's do
Let's
it.
do it.
Hey, y'all. I'm Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon best-selling publisher, author, and all-natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self-care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes, together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co-founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week with special guests for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do
Hmm.
we do
So
this?
important.
Especially now. Right?
And I mean, we talk about emotional and mental wellness. Like, I've been checking in with myself, like, how are you? And I'm like, I don't know.
Right?
And sometimes it's a list of answers, sometimes it's, well, what do we know to do? Today was like, go run. Right now, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right? Being
Mhm.
healthy,
Yeah.
right? I think is in all our dimensions, but picking one thing you can do. I was listening to Brene Brown, who, is one of my favorite social workers and was one of
Yeah.
my teachers
Yeah.
in grad school. And she was saying, if you are leading people now,
Mhm.
you have to know your people are not okay.
Mhm.
Like nobody's okay right now.
Mm.
And if they're thinking they're okay, they're probably faking it till they make it.
And they're
Like
they're worse
the
off than you think because they think they're okay.
right, the climate they're living in. And
Mhm.
so really paying attention and leading from that place or
Yeah.
having that compassion and
Yeah.
having that understanding that the capacity we once had may not be the same capacity, whether that's from grief and loss, whether that's from trauma, whether it's from world events, all three of those combined together.
Mhm.
Like, yeah,
Daylight time outside, and that we're about to talk about the audiobook for volume 2 with everything being published, and that's about to do our launch. And so I've been thinking about my chapter, and that's what we talk about with the intellectual wellness is checking in with your team's capacity. Assume that every day is going to be different. Women week to week is different. Day to day is different. Like, where is this person today? Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And check it. And our practice in interplay is to take a moment to just notice, right? Notice what we notice in our own bodies. So we can, as we're going to talk about boundaries today, so like we can know what we need. Because
Yeah.
to me, that shifts, right? Depending on how I am
It
and
does.
what I need. But
It
I love
does.
that we're talking about emotional and mental wellness today. I think that's very timely. You ready for me to give our listeners the definition?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, emotional and mental wellness is about being aware and intentional of our feelings in all situations. It includes having the capacity and tools to handle and express these emotions in a healthy manner and the ability to learn and grow from experience. Emotional well being encourages autonomy, useful decision making skills, and striving toward good mental health.
Yes. What stands out for you this week in our definition?
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask, and I'm gonna have to be really honest and
Okay.
say what stands out to me
Uh,
is having the capacity and tools to handle and express these emotions in a healthy manner. I
okay.
do not feel I did a good job with that this morning with my sweetheart.
Okay.
Um, we got into one of those fights that long-term couples often have, like, and
Yeah.
certain words were said, and
Yeah.
usually I can just water with a duck or
Yeah.
I don't know what was up this morning. I did not handle it well.
I hear you. I
And
understand.
so I was like, "What is up with that?" So that's what really jumped out at me. It was like, "Okay, so you are, didn't have the capacity this morning."
Mhm.
For that. And
Mhm.
it could have been timing, it could have been I don't know, but, I have some
Yeah.
repair to do and,
Yeah, I hear you.
yeah,
Yeah. You know, I always vote to give you more space when you need more
yeah,
space and you're not okay,
yeah,
so I definitely hear you. I've been working on it, surprised at how I've been in certain situations, and I've seen it as an opportunity to, like, checking with myself, where am I? And I'm again finding that I don't know. And what stood out for me is that knowing where you are. I didn't even know where I was in some of these situations, so
Right?
it makes sense, and
Right?
our relationship a lot of times is what helps me know that I'm tight before I get to you guys. I'm like, "Oh, I'm
Right?
tighter than I thought I was. I need to slow down because I'm gonna do something else if I talk to my team, like, what's gonna happen?" So I
Right,
hear what
that
you're saying.
checking in with ourselves. Well, and I
Yeah,
think that was our number one mistake. Joe and I have been together 31 years, so we've had a
yeah,
lot of practice at these fights. But
yeah,
it was, and I can't wait to talk to our guests too about it because it was
yeah.
about the boundaries, right? I
Okay,
usually have the boundary that we don't talk about certain things first thing in the morning or really late at night. Like,
okay.
I hadn't even had my cup of tea
Yeah,
when we launched into this. And
I
I'm
hear
like,
you.
"I hadn't had caffeine, my feet are not warm,
Mhm,
and we're gonna have what discussion?"
mhm.
So, yeah, I just, but it really does, like, checking in with ourselves for I hadn't gotten to do my morning routine, which,
Yeah,
sometimes I feel selfish about, but thinking about this morning, like, it really does help me to have that emotional and
yeah,
mental wellness and well-being to be able to respond from a place of love and caring.
it does.
And,
It absolutely does.
yeah,
Yeah, and, that's why we work on our inner critic and our inner ally,
right?
and how I
Shout
am
out
with
to Dr.
myself.
Cynthia Phelps.
Shout out to Dr.
Yep.
Phelps, right? And genuinely what I've seen is that we're better after those conversations. Something happens, so it needs to
Mm,
be understood, and like, let's get to this difficult part. But on the other side, we're better. We're better after that as a unit. So again, I definitely hear what you're saying, but I genuinely feel like it saves lives. Like us knowing where we are. I'm I'm telling you, you know what I mean? Like,
I
who
love the way
knows the
you
type of
said it.
person.
My husband would probably agree with you.
Joe, I know you know. It's us, you know what I mean? Like,
We love you,
yeah,
Joe.
we love you. And we be tripping
Shannon's
sometimes, but
trying to
stuff
save your
happens.
life.
Like, you no, I am, and I want you to see 61, you know that. Um, and I get it, and I tell him about the non-negotiables, all this stuff. We've been talking about the journaling, and again, you just came back in
Right?
town, so it makes sense, the stutter
Yeah.
step back into it, getting used to everything, and being excited about being together, trying to talk, but non-negotiable.
Well, and talking about what we mentioned earlier about people not being okay with the greater world. And then I think, I don't know if I told you or not, I can't remember that I came home to a pet emergency. Did I tell you
You
that?
did. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why I checked in when we first and I always
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
right. And had to help one of our older kitties cross the Rainbow Bridge. And that was, I forget, I don't forget because I've lived with it for so many years now about grief and loss, but it's sneaky sometimes. And I
Mm,
need to give him a little grace around that too. So
mhm. Yeah, I hear you.
it is,
Yeah.
it's a challenge when we're going through something as a family. And yeah.
Yeah, I
So
get it. I get it, I get it. But
I
y'all,
am
we
excited to get our guest up here. You ready to read her bio?
yes, I am, and I know
Let's
we've
do
talked
it.
about it a little bit, right? We're talking about emotional wellness and boundaries. We've told y'all that, but today, y'all, our guest is Tasha Wilson, and Tasha is one of today's identifiable trailblazers for millennial women. As an international best-selling author, entrepreneur, and speaker, Tasha uses her wit, grit, and authenticity to ignite the value of her voice while encouraging others to do the same. Recognizably known as Tasha W., Messenger of Hope, she helps millennial women unlock the treasure within, confront pitfalls from the past, and explore the power of fearlessness. Tasha uses her past experiences as a springboard to inspire others to break glass ceilings, transform their pain into power, and rediscover who they are beyond their trauma. In 2016, she received the Governor's Volunteer Service Certificate for Community Activism. In 2021, Tasha was one of Baltimore's inspiring stories for Voyage Baltimore magazine. As a mental health advocate, she served on Grammy Award winner Michelle Williams' launch team of the book, Checking In. In 2022, Tasha was honored as one of Maryland's Christian Women in Leadership recipients and received the Marketplace Forerunner Award. Recently, she was featured in Woman to Woman International Network Inc. as an as an emerging entrepreneur on the rise. Tasha turned life's lemons into lemon pound cake and is reshaping the business landscape. Help us welcome to the stage Tasha Wilson. Hi, Tasha.
Hello.
Welcome to Women Connected in Wisdom.
Thank you so much. When you were reading the bio, I was like, wait, is that me?
Yes, yes, and more, right? And more.
Yes, yes.
hmm So I know you've been listening in the green room to our conversation. When you think about boundaries or not barriers and being shatterproof, was there anything that you wanted to chime in on? I know we were kind of talking about a lot before we go into our conversation.
Yeah. So for me, I think about life experiences. Experience is the best teacher for me. That's honestly how I learned the importance of boundaries because I didn't have any at first. And I just remember I was trying to be all things to everyone, and that is not sustainable because I am prioritizing everyone else. I'm prioritizing their access, their needs, and I'm forgetting about me. And so I've had a few key moments in my life where it literally almost cost me my life
Mm,
to say, okay, Tasha, you need to actually put yourself on the list. Not last, but you got to put yourself on the list, period. And then everyone else is going to work itself out. Right. So, yeah, that was critical for me. And so, really understanding that boundaries are not a way to block people out, but it's just about preserving your energy and creating a safe space for you. Because we always talk about being a safe space for everyone else, but are you that for yourself? So,
right, right.
Mm, I love that.
So what did that look like before you got to this realization? And when you were saying it was almost costing you your health, putting you in different situations, did you think that boundaries were barriers? Did you think about boundaries? Where were you with it? And how did you get to where you are now as an author who helps people with this?
yeah. So, when you're in the helping profession, fellow social worker, yes. You're always taught that you are prioritizing everyone else, right? You're always taught that you are the one that's kind of helping people navigate life. You're kind of like their compass, if you will, their guide to kind of help them where they are. And sometimes you have to go back to the foundation of how they even got to where they are in the present. And so
Right.
when you're dealing with that, it's always about, okay, well, someone's in crisis, someone's in need. So then there's no time really for you to figure out, okay, where can I fit in? Like half the time it's like, where do I have lunch? Or what time do I actually get off work? So those kind of things. So when you're in a work environment that already establishes that boundaries are kind of non-existent, you're not even familiar with them. And then personally, growing up in a large family, everyone just kind of knows you. Everyone just feels like they can invade your space. There's really no privacy there. And that's just kind of something generationally where it's just kind of like, okay, everyone needs to know where you are, who you're with, and what's going on. But then after a while, then there's friction because once you're becoming your own self and you're recognizing your own identity, you realize that some of the things passed on generationally you don't want any part of. So, my thing is the healthy stuff, sure, pass on, but the trauma, no, thank you. I'll refrain from it. And so when I realized that I didn't like how I felt internally, like when I'm not feeling comfortable or I'm just feeling on edge, then that lets me know it's a trigger. It's like a sensor, like something's a little off in this setting and I don't like how I feel in this moment. And so that's when I started to really gauge what gives me life, what makes me feel good, what gives me comfort, and how can I maintain that versus appeasing everybody else's opinion or reaction once I start reclaiming who I am and what I need versus giving life to everyone else. And so that was kind of like the introduction to it a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm, I love that. Tasha, when our listeners hear this and check out your work, because you have incredible books, and one of them we're going to talk about today is the Shatterproof Refocusing the Lens. But when somebody starts to acknowledge what feels good in their own body and I heard you about listening to your inner voice and
Hmm.
setting boundaries from that place.
Hmm.
Um, what's the reaction that they're likely to get from people who are used to having full access to them?
So when you're always the one who's accustomed to saying yes or I'll figure it out, the moment you say no or I don't have the bandwidth or actually I'm a little busy today, I don't have the availability to meet your need in this moment, they're going to get pushback. Most likely, it could show up in the form of a silent treatment. It could just form up with someone, as I call having adult tantrums, where they just kind of, you know, just a visual of like steam going out of their ears and just kind of being upset or disgruntled. And it's not necessarily the reason as to why you're unable to do it. All they hear is no, because they're so used to you saying yes. And so it's now causing a level of discomfort within them. They don't like it. So of course you're going to get pushback. Sometimes you may even have people who will continue to try and push the envelope. So if you say no the first time, then they may try to work around it and try to insert themselves again just to see if you'll kind of bend a little bit, because they're more focused on their need of you in that moment instead of what you're actually saying to them of what you are unable to do. So you're going to get a lot of pushback. And sometimes people will make you feel guilty and try to, burden that on them. But you got to learn how to not make somebody else's urgency your emergency. And so, yeah.
Yes, yes. Growing up doing lawns with my dad, sometimes I would go in customers' houses where if they were really nice, trying to offer me food and water or something. One time I was in this woman's bathroom, she had signs for her children, and that's where I heard that first. Your emergency does not constitute an emergency on my end. And I was like,
Mm,
dang. But yeah, yeah, let me know. I get it. I get it.
mhm,
And what you said, and what, I walk through with my friends as we have these conversations of reactions and life and stuff in general,
mhm,
is that like this person who feels like you're saying no, I'm trying to help you get to a yes. It's gonna be a win-win situations, right? Like sometimes
mhm,
other people might build things where a no means they're not gonna get it. And so that's what they
mhm.
think, that you're still not gonna be mad. I don't love you anymore. We not That's not what I'm saying. I just said today I
Yeah.
need 24-hour advance notice because I'm booked already. Let me I
Mhm.
could do next week, and so how can we build? That's what excites me, is building in win-win situations and still trying to work through the people I want to stay in relationships with. Like, what could it look like for us both to be a yes, but me to give a yes when it's a no and there's no capacity for a yes?
Yeah.
Does not make sense and it's not healthy. So we're gonna have to work through it,
Mhm,
Yeah, it's
mhm.
not always easy. So when you think about Shatterproof, what comes to mind there?
Yeah, it's so funny, because as a child, my mom was like, I've never been the one to follow crowds anyway, so she wasn't surprised that I kinda followed the beat of my own drum as an adult. Like, when people think that they can try to get me to change my mind or feel like they can try to convince me or wear me down with my decision, she's like, you're wasting your time because, Tasha stands firm on her stance. And, you don't have to agree with it, but it makes sense to her kind of thing. And so when I think of Shatterproof, I think of someone who is not. Um, easily persuaded to change or alter who they are for the sake of someone else's comfortability or for the sake of someone else's opinion. And so, shatterproof means everything may not be okay, but you understand that you're still going to get through it. You don't have to water down or minimize who you are to kind of morph yourself to fit into a box that other people may try to place you in. Shatterproof says, I can have the duality of joy and pain at the same time. They can coexist. But I do understand that I'm taking ownership of my emotions. I'm taking ownership of what I'm sitting in right now, but I'm not going to remain there. And so shatterproof is just kind of navigating how you're feeling, finding language for it, and then showing up as to how you want to become and evolve. And so for me, shatterproof looks different in every season of life and every transition that you're dealing with. But it's something that we all can have if we want it.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So we have somebody listening that has been a people pleaser their whole life.
Mhm.
And they've been trained, right? Maybe
Mhm.
eh, in our society, often women are trained to be the people pleasers and to go with the
Mhm.
flow and to make
Mhm.
everybody else happy. And
Mhm.
especially when they're in the caring profession.
Mhm.
Where would you encourage them to start? Like, what would be an incremental step or a
Yeah.
starting place?
Mm,
A starting place is, um, It's gonna sound so frivolous, but yet impactful at the same time. Looking in the mirror. A lot of times we're so caught up and consumed by what we are doing for people that we don't actually take the time to stop and see who we are. So the first place to see who you are is to look in the mirror and have a conversation with yourself. Look in the mirror and kind of get to that why. Like, why do I feel like I have to help people? Why do I feel like I have to be accessible? Why am I excited about the work that I do, right? And then really you'll start unpacking some things like, is it because someone told you that's the lane you should have fell into? Or if this something that you saw in childhood and someone kind of stood out to you and they made such an impact in your life to do it? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many boxes you check or how long your checklist is. If your why is non-existent, everything that you're doing is not going to be sustainable. You're going to get burnt out. You're going to get tired. You're going to get bored. And then you're going to go on to the next thing because you're trying to find fulfillment. You're trying to find energy. You're looking for something that serves as a quick fix instead of something that produces longevity. So you got to point to yourself to figure out the why.
I love it. It's so important. And what I was gonna say, because I always think about my own answers to the questions we ask on the show too, right? Is putting something on the calendar for yourself. If you
Yes.
feel like, everybody's taking your time, XYZ, for me, I know I get a higher level of anxiety. Somebody's asking to hang out and I don't know what my schedule is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think about it like that. I just feel the anxiety. I think about being in the middle of introvert and extrovert. I need to
Mm-hmm.
recharge. I have a lot, but I feel that way. I know about
Mm-hmm.
myself now that I feel that way because I don't know what my schedule is. I can't say I have Friday and Sunday, which one works best for you, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and so holding that, and then if you have people, like in this example, who are trying to come in every day or pop up in different places, there's going to be an opportunity to say no to somebody. And then you
Mm-hmm.
can hold it for yourself. But I love your answer as the first step, Tasha, because I wasn't looking at myself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I was brushing my teeth. And when we started talking about this on the podcast, I said, do I brush my teeth every day and I don't look at myself not one time? That's
Yeah.
crazy. How do I do that? That's crazy. And so
Mhm.
I would second your answer, is go look at yourself for a minute and
Yeah.
physically, literally, and then yes, also metaphorically, what do I want? What is it to me that I want reflected in my life? If today is the last day, what did I do with my time today? What did I do this
Yes.
week? Am I happy with that? Or do I feel some type of way about it?
Mhm.
And y'all, it's really interesting. I didn't always realize it. I wouldn't call myself a people pleaser, but I had this one young lady I was hanging out with a little bit in high school. And one day I was helping her with her JROTC stuff, and it was back and forth. She forgot something else. And what we were walking back to the car from the school, she was like, "Why are you letting me treat you like this?" And
Mhm.
as the band section leader, as NHS president, as Beta Club secretary, cool with the quarterback and cool with everybody, I did not think that I
Mhm.
needed to deal with my self-esteem and that I would let people treat me any type of way. Not that those positions made me feel popular because I didn't care about popularity. I wanted to love people and I was cool with everybody. But I was very surprised that she said that. And from that moment, I don't want somebody else who's not treating me up to standard to have to be the person to remind me. I need my own standards that say,
Yeah.
hey, past this point, you've gone too far. And
Mhm.
so that's, something that I try to hold on to myself for. But like you said, it is season to season. So what does that look like for you, Tasha, when you've gotten better with boundaries and you're saying, okay, this is how it is now. A season shifts.
Mhm.
How did you walk through that season? Did you know before the season changed that, hey, I'm gonna have to ace every time? Or is that something that you grew into as you continue to work on keeping your boundaries for yourself?
Yeah, definitely something I had to grow into, because the needs of me change, within each season, and the access changes within each season. So, like, there's one season where it's super quiet. Like when I think about, for me,
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about three groups really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all three steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off, the oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. You know, the story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade,
Yes.
and it smells great, y'all. So,
Yes. Esthetician
yay.
tested. Yes. Esthetician tested and approved. Yes. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, I work with individual coaching clients, I work in community classes, and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. Especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
When I think about, for me, spring is usually that season. I know typically people are like, for them, they may have a lot going on. But for me, that is more of a quiet time when I think of like my family, when I think of my loved ones, my friends. That's a little more quiet, a little more mellow, as far as like calendar year, the springtime. And so it gives me more opportunity to, take vacations. It gives me more opportunity to, be strategic on where I wanna show up, if I wanna show up, or just stay at home. But I think about the summer, that is a lot more busier for me, because there's a lot of birthdays circulating around, and so for me, I now have to decide because I remember there was one month that there was something going on every weekend, and I was like, "Yep, not going to that, but I'm going here." Okay. And just trying to figure it out because I had to think about it in advance. Well, I have the capacity. My day to day looks different at work.
Mhm. Right.
Will I have the energy to just use my energy to the point where I'm depleting myself as a resource, or will there be something where it's a reciprocal stimulation? And so I got to think about that. Where's the environment? What is actually happening? And who's the host of this environment? And it's like I love all of my close core friends the same, but if it's something that I know that's just really not in alignment with where I am and what I have going on in that season, I bow out gracefully. And if they get offended by it, then I'm like, well, then you really don't know me at all because I can't be on all the time. It's a lot that comes within it. And then even with my brand, it requires me to be on a lot. And so I'm like, you got to take an account that my 9 to 5 is also a 5 to 9 because there's other things that I do outside of reporting to the office. And so it's just really figuring out what gives me more energy in each season. And so, like right now, this is a sweet spot for me because, it's fall and we're going to get into winter. And this is where I get to enjoy all of my holiday movies and enjoy being in the house and not really doing too much. And I can just really refuel that way. Because, I mentioned earlier to you all before this, but I am an introvert at heart, but my gifts are not. And so a lot of times people get conflicted because everything that I do is in spaces that would require me to be a little more visible, require me to be a little more tangible in terms of human interaction. But for me, if I had it my way, I would be at home in an intimate space with just a few people around and watching my movies.
Right? Okay, so we have to break for a very important question here. Number one holiday movie for you that you have to see?
Okay, hold on, because I will binge watch all of them.
But and maybe it's the top 3. Maybe it's the top 3 because we're about to get into the season. So,
So this is one, it's not brand new, but I have to watch it every time. It's New Orleans Noel. It's with Patti LaBelle in there and Keisha Napoleon and her husband Brad James. But I am someone who is also I love romance. And so basically she's been tasked to do an architectural project. And so she is paired with a former classmate from college, not realizing that they were set up to be a team. And so apparently both of them had crushes on each other and they didn't know it. And so then once it's like a full circle, like, okay, now we're both in position doing what we love and what we're passionate about, which is architectural work. And then now we have to work together. And then now we can't really hide how we feel, but now we're older. So we got to learn each other in a new way. And so it just
love
kind of
it.
falls in place where they end up um,
I don't
being
no
honest with
spoilers.
each other.
No,
Yeah, no,
no
no.
spoilers.
But
We're gonna watch it.
yeah, they end up being honest with each other. I'll just say that. But
All
there's a lot
right.
of layers, and I know that you'll love that, right? Because you're all about wellness. There are different layers with Keisha that will explain why her behavior was the way it was in the beginning, and then
Okay.
That
mhm.
makes
Oh, I
sense.
can't wait because I haven't seen that one. So that was New Orleans Noel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay.
Yes.
We always take notes during our interview because
Yeah.
this is like we get good juicy stuff that we've got to
It's
Yeah.
see.
so
Do
cozy, and
you
I watched it
Tasha,
like it's like
is the last holiday on your list?
no,
Oh, you gotta check that.
Have you seen it, Tasha?
I have not.
With Queen Latifah, right, Christine?
Queen
Oh,
Latifah,
it's good.
one of my faves.
It's
Every
good.
Okay.
year, my family,
Okay.
we have to watch it. It is one of
Mhm.
Okay.
our oh, it's so good, and the
It's good.
scenery in it is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you'll
yeah,
like it, Tasha.
I
Yeah.
think you'll like
Okay.
it.
Let us know. Let us know after you watch
Got a
it.
little
But yeah, it's
got a
good.
little theme about fighting the man, and, like,
Yeah.
it's
Uh-huh.
all it's
Ooh,
good.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
good.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think it's cute. Our whole
It
family,
is.
it's a big
It
thing we have to do.
it, revigorates your passion for life,
Yes.
Yeah,
those type of stories too,
Mhm.
and Queen Latifah is always good in everything she does,
yeah,
so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's good. I haven't
yeah.
seen this yet, so, yeah, it's good. Um, I love it. So, Tasha, we're talking about being an author, right? We're talking about being shatterproof, transition through different seasons. When you think about boundaries
Mhm.
not being barriers, what else comes up for you in that conversation?
Yeah. So I think, for me, I love how whenever I'm introducing boundaries to someone or even reinforcing them, they don't realize that a boundary has been set. Because one thing about boundaries is that you don't have to be forceful with it, right? So if, someone could, I'll use this example. At work, right? We can say that we have an open door policy, but that doesn't mean that you're allowed to enter my office without knocking.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? So it's
right.
like the open door policy means that if someone has questions, we're here to provide whatever service or need that they have and address their concern. But what that doesn't mean is that you now have the autonomy to disrespect my personal space. And so if someone, which has happened before, just kind of walks into my office and, here's a boundary example. Hi, how are you doing? Is there something that you need? And they're kind of like, well, I had a question. And I'm like, well, did you even see if I was available? Because you just kind of entered my space and you didn't check to see where I was in the moment. We don't have that type of relationship where you can kind of enter in. And so, just as a standard practice, just start knocking and seeing if someone's available, asking before you assume that you can kind of dominate their time. And so, that's just a way to say, one, know the people around you and don't assume that everyone is cookie cutter, because that's another thing. We all come with our own experiences and we all come with the boundaries that make sense to us to make us feel safe. And so, for me, I always say that boundaries are a learning tool because you're getting to know the individuals that you're around. What may be a boundary for you may not be a boundary for them. Also knowing that I view boundaries as like a working, breathing document. Like, when you're in the professional space and you have like an SOP and you're like, okay, I can update this as much as I need to. Same thing with boundaries, because what may have used to been a boundary before and you kind of mastered that, you don't really need that anymore. And then there's some that you're like, okay, I need to reinforce this one a little
So,
bit.
can you go more into detail? What's something that was a boundary that
Mhm.
doesn't need to be enforced anymore? Like, when would that happen?
Yeah. So before, um, I used to be really more reserved and not say much,
Mm.
and knowing that I needed to say something. And so I would just have other people speak with their assumption as to what I'm thinking instead of clarifying it. And so I realized I had to put a boundary in place to say, okay, I need you to kind of regain your voice a little bit. And I think that was also at the time where I've lost my voice. So it came after a traumatic experience. I was sexually assaulted,
Wow.
and it was just at a point in my life where I lost my voice in that, and it became paralyzed with that. So it's just
Mhm.
kind of like, if I were to speak up, would anyone respect what I had to say? Would anyone believe what I had to say? And so that kind of entered in every other area in my life. And so if we were working on like a group project or something collective, and if I'm not really saying much or not saying anything, then someone could easily be like, well, I think Tasha's in agreement with this. And I could not be. And so I had to learn, okay, if you're not in agreement with something, it's okay to speak up and say it, but say it in such a way that it's going to be heard and it's going to be received. And so that was a boundary that, for me, that lack of not having one, to say, okay, now it's like I don't need to use that boundary anymore because everyone knows when Tasha's in the room, she's going to speak. So I don't have to be like, okay, hold on, no, well, this is what I meant. So now I don't really have to make that a boundary to say, hey, excuse me, I didn't get a chance to speak. Or, hey, no, everyone needs to have a voice at the table. They know when I'm coming in. When I speak, you're going to listen. So that's not necessarily a boundary that I have to reinforce to say, I don't need you to speak for me, kind of thing. But like a new boundary for me now is, when I am speaking, make sure that I'm able to capture my thoughts altogether versus
Mhm.
being cut off, because I'm in a space where it's dominated in my department where all the individuals do not look like me. And so sometimes if I speak up, then they think that they have the right to abruptly cut me off
Mhm.
and say something. And then now here's this new boundary introduced. Excuse me, I'm not done talking. I need to get my complete thought out. And, just like I gave you space to share what you had to say, please respect me in the same regard. A new boundary.
Whole explanation is so considerate of
Yeah. Yeah. So
you.
it's an elevated boundary. It's an elevated.
Yeah, I hear you. Yes, I get it. We were at this, music release, and it was so interesting, y'all. This guy, I heard his voice when we walked in the door. I'm like, "This man has been talking since we got here." I waited till the end, right? I'm not an artist. It's been a while since I sang. Nobody I'm not here because I'm an artist. I'm here because I'm the partner of the music producer, right? So
Mhm.
I came to the music release in support of the music and the artist, and so I patiently waited till everybody and all the different people had their time to talk. And I wasn't banned for 7 years though. I do read music and could listen all these things for music. So I'm gonna share. And my sentence was cut off, and I did not interrupt the music release and do the list of options that were available on the table. I let this gentleman speak, and I don't think I finished, and I let the event go on with whatever happened. I said, you know what? I'm not ever doing that again. I'm not
Yeah.
ever this man has been talking the whole time. My sentence was worth it, and it was gonna add value, and I will finish my sentence next time.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Like,
Period.
it's crazy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I appreciate you sharing part of your story, Tasha. I saw it on your website, and I wanted to specifically ask you about it because it reminded me of, um somebody in college. And as an RA, as a resident assistant on the campus, it's my
Mhm.
job to make sure that my residents I had a whole building, right? Not just a
Mhm.
floor, had everything they needed. And that's a list of different things on a university campus, right? And I
Mhm.
remember one of the young ladies just that I knew in college and knew a lot of people, right? Um, the way that she was received with her story, the way that she didn't want to tell it anymore after having to relive it countless times. And
Mhm.
now you're marked as a liar,
Mhm.
And all the things that compound onto that, right?
Mhm.
So when we're talking about being shatterproof and
Mhm.
how you help millennials use their voice, I
Mhm.
really wanted to dive into that a little bit about how
Mhm.
you regain, being comfortable in your own skin and
Mhm.
being comfortable using your voice after you have that type of experience.
Yeah, I think, for me, I honestly got tired and exhausted of being the limitation for my life. I was my own limitation. After a while, when you are trying to keep up with the narrative of living in that pain, living in that situation, it becomes exhausting. And so for me, I got tired of allowing this individual to live rent free in my head. I got tired of giving him power that he didn't deserve, and I wanted to take it back. And so I realized on my terms that meant coloring outside of the lines. And so, um, I was just really withdrawn and retreated after that and just really didn't want to talk to anyone. I isolated myself and I realized I was missing out on so much with life and my happiness because I was just so caught in that situation. And so I had to return back to who I was or who I was introduced as before that situation. And so for me, I was this person who was loving, nurturing, supportive, someone who had a smile on her face, someone who lit up rooms. And I'm like, why am I allowing this person in this situation to alter my identity when they don't have the control to do so? And so for me, I really started back journaling. Um, then I started telling people, people that I trusted and was like, look, I have a secret. I've been holding on to this. I'm tired of how it makes me feel.
Mm,
This is what happened. And then their reaction is what did it for me. For the first time, someone actually listened to me. They didn't interrupt and they believed me. And so
Mm.
when they believed me, I was like, I'm going to go to counseling. And so that's kind of snowballed into me becoming who I've always been, but just a more polished and evolved version. And so I realized at the end of the day, my voice, my story, my experience, the indicative word is mine. And so no one can take that from me. And, I used to try to gatekeep because I was trying to save him. And I'm like, why am I saving the person who did the act? But that's
Mhm.
what your mind does. It regulates with you thinking that you're protecting the person when they should be held accountable for what they did. And so, yeah, just me finding freedom and sharing my story and just allowing myself to be surrounded by the love that exists and not focusing on the things that I was lacking, and that's kind of what helped me reframe my thought process and then ultimately reframe my life and then realize there's other people who may be experiencing a similar path, similar trauma, similar pain, and they're just looking for someone on the outside who may have looked like they have it all together, but in reality, they had a burden that they carried for so many years until they finally felt it was time to get free of it. So,
yeah.
Mm. Such a powerful story, Tasha.
thank
And
you.
I am paying attention because you told us you had to leave a little bit early, and I'm paying attention to the time. So, how can our listeners find you and connect with you?
Yes. My website is the greatest starting point. But if you want to email me, www.lifewithtashaw.com. I respond to emails, very responsive to that. Instagram is another way. Life with Tasha W _ I respond to messages there. If you follow me, I accept it. I'm just a person who just believes that I had to go through this to not only help me, but to help somebody else. And so that's how I live my life. That there's purpose in everything, even when it's uncomfortable and even when it doesn't make sense, right? But once you start really getting into it, into the weeds and the thorns, you realize it makes perfect sense. So I always tell people that my pain is what catapulted my purpose. So
Mm,
yeah.
mm. Thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing your story and your work in the world. We will put all this in the show notes so folks can find you. I
Mhm.
don't know if you have a minute left. Do you?
I have 1 minute left.
All right. So we often do at the end of our shows with our
There we go.
guests, we do a wisdom in action.
Okay.
And so what
Okay.
are you doing for yourself this week, Tasha? For your emotional and mental wellness, what's intentional on your list?
So I kind of spoiled it already. So
Okay. That's okay.
what's intentional for me this week is that I'm actually going to binge watch Christmas movies. I'm starting to gather a list
Mhm.
of some movies that I want to see over the weekend. This is the one weekend where I don't have any other commitments, and so I'm taking the time to refuel myself. So yeah,
Oh,
I
I love
love
that.
it. Please let us know how you like the last holiday.
that
Yeah.
is on the list.
I love it. Yes, let us know.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for your time today and for being with us. And we're so grateful to
Yes.
know you and to be connected.
Yes, thank you so much for the invite. This was great. We may have to do a part 2 where I don't have to
Yes, please.
leave early. That's
Well,
okay.
and if there were happened to be another book to come out or something like
Yeah,
that, like it would be
You know?
totally fun to have you back and talk about that.
We could volume
absolutely.
3, everything. We could talk about it.
Yes,
Looking forward to
okay.
staying in contact.
Thanks, Tasha.
Thank
Of course, of
Oh my
course.
goodness. I know she had to zip out,
I'm
but
so glad you remember because 'cause I'm looking at
what?
this time. I needed to be looking at that time.
Right? Well, I was just especially because 'cause we're talking about boundaries,
Yeah,
right?
we
I
are. We
wanted to be
are.
really
Way to
respectful of
honor it.
her
Good job.
boundaries.
It's important.
Um, what's your wisdom in action this week? What are you thinking about?
Mm. She said so much, and I meant to write it down. There was something she said, it was like a list. You know, I like lists of 3. Let's see. Boundaries are not barriers. I think really is just hashtag keep communicating.
Mm.
Keep communicating, because a lot of times it could be, um,
Mhm.
I'm the type of person, 1, I don't like to repeat myself. I do not like to repeat myself. So if I said it once, you're lucky if you get it a second time. It's been me working on myself with grace and patience to remember that people need reminders, Shannon. It takes 21 times to build a habit. Like, you gotta be realistic. But,
Well, especially when one of your business partners is ADD,
you
'cause,
know,
like,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
whoosh.
yeah. And not taking it personal. Like, it's not,
Right.
Christine is
Ah,
not one of these people that's trying to be a certain way. She just got back in from town. These
eh,
ex like, these things make sense. I'm looking at the capacity and it makes sense. Um, but just to keep communicating through that, you know what I mean?
love
That's
that.
mine. Yeah.
I love that.
What about you?
I loved when she talked about looking in the mirror and what your why is. Like, I'm
Yeah.
usually really well connected to that. But I think the hashtag of remember your why.
Yeah.
Right? Remember
Yeah.
your why, especially, as we do move towards the holiday season, like, people's emotions are already heightened. I mean,
Gotcha.
we got sensitive beings, and understandably so, not in judgment of that, but just
Right.
everybody I feel like is really sensitive right now. So, remembering the whys, and staying connected and open-hearted
Yeah.
and compassionate with ourselves and each other, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's big stuff we're dancing through and moving through and playing through.
Yeah. And even with me, like, talking about communicating and repeating, like, Did I did I say it the right way? How could I say it to be clear? What is you know what I mean? Like, there's all of that. So, um, being like you said, having grace with that and patience with ourselves and everybody else, is part of why, I'm super excited to be publishing this audiobook right now. For us to have written this book in 2023, 2023, Shannon was disappointed, and we thought we were gonna be done that year, right? I am so okay that it is coming out when it's coming out and that we're about to have this launch because us leaning more towards this side, the emotional and mental and having more chapters in this dimension of wellness for what we needed in this time, the audiobook is so powerful and it just lands so different with the backdrop of where we are now. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to hear what our listeners think, how it helps, and to get more of these reviews because the reviews from 2023 are like this is life changing. Everybody needs this. This guy's like, oh my God, I didn't know if I needed it. He loved it, you know? So I'm looking forward to what everybody says about the audiobook.
Oh, I love that. And asking our listeners if you've read volume 1 or volume 2 or are now able to listen to it, yes, please, to giving us a review. They really do help wherever you purchased it.
They
And
do.
I will put the link in our show notes so folks can get it because this is
It is
exciting.
exciting. It
It's
is.
exciting. I wanted to let folks know, this week I have the privilege of being at Atlanta,
Mm,
Compassion Con,
mm,
with, Interplay Atlanta. So if you
beautiful.
are local to Atlanta, come on out. It's in Decatur at Legacy Park. I'll put that
Mm,
link in the show notes too. Would love to see you in person and connect and say hello, and,
yeah.
it should be a good weekend, and, it's gonna be Sunday. It's gonna be beautiful at the park in
Mm,
the afternoon, and going to be a lot of really cool organizations out there with a lot of tools and resources for these
mm.
times.
I love that.
So,
So
mhm,
important. Like you said, right before the holidays, tap into that compassion.
right, for ourselves and each other in this
I love it.
world we're navigating. So,
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for episode 207. We will be live at 5 next week, Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.